Hello, this is Woolly Faye. Welcome to my channel. This tutorial is to show you how to do the woven stitch. I like to provide resources for those who buy my patterns, but if you are here for any other reason, then you're welcome, and I hope that you will subscribe to my channel, give me a like, and share it with your friends. So what I want to do here is we're going to set this up like we were actually going to do the woven stitch, and then we're going to try do 2 or 3 different variations on it, or 2 different variations on it, just so that you can see how that needs to work if you want to do it in rounds or repeats and rows. So I'm just going to chain up 1 and do the single crochet into the next stitch, and we're going to start from there. I am using a smaller hook than what is recommended for the Aran weight yarn. This is an Aran weight polyester yarn. It's from Yarn Bee. Lion Brand also makes one called Feels Like Butter, and I will be using that today with a 4mm hook instead of a 5mm because I like to scale down. So the way that you do the woven stitch is that you always skip a stitch and then go into the next one, skip a stitch and then go into the next one. So you're always skipping one and going into the second from your hook, skipping one, going into the second from your hook. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to yarn over, you're going to skip the stitch, you're going to go into the next one, you're going to pull up a loop, and then you're going to slip stitch the first loop through the second loop. You're going to yarn over and you're going to complete that stitch like you would a single crochet. So you're just going to pull through both loops. Then you're going to go back into this exact same stitch again. So you're going to yarn over, you're going to insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, and this time you're going to slip stitch through both loops. So you've got 3 loops, you slip stitch the first loop through the next 2. Now we're going to skip the next stitch and go to this one, the second one from our hook. So we yarn over, right, and we insert a hook into the second loop from the hook. We've skipped one, all right, we pull up a loop, we then we slip stitch through the first of the 3 loops, then we yarn over and we pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, insert the hook into the exact same stitch. We're going into it twice, pull up a loop, right, and then we're going to slip stitch these 3 loops. We're going to slip stitch the first one through the next 2. So pull through like that. And it's okay if you have to do 1 loop at a time until you get used to it. Also, this may feel a little awkward at first, but if you do it enough times, and it will start to feel quite natural. So just bear with it, because it's just a matter of your brain and your hands learning to work together on this stitch. It's just something new if you've never done it before, and that is always awkward. Just try to remember how awkward it was when you first made your first chain. Okay, so you're going to wrap it, and you're going to skip a stitch. You're going to go into the next stitch. You're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. You're going to slip stitch the first one through the second, yarn over and pull through the remaining 2 loops. We always work into that same stitch twice, so we yarn over, we go back into it, we pull up a loop, and this time we slip stitch the first one through the next 2. Okay, so we just skip a stitch all the way down, all right, and we just repeat that over and over again all the way to the end of the row. And there are 2 ways to work this, and I'm going to show you those, but just practice doing that. You can actually pause this video and catch up if you like. I'm going to go ahead and just zip along here and get to where I need to be. Okay, wrap, insert, pull up a loop, 1 loop through the second loop, yarn over, pull through 2, back into the same stitch again, slip stitch through both loops the second time, skip a stitch, yarn over, insert the hook, pull up a loop, slip stitch the first loop through the second, yarn over, pull through both loops, yarn over, insert into the same stitch, and then we're going to slip stitch through 2. So I'm going to do that all the way to the end. As I said, you can pause that video and catch up and then go from there if you're not used to it. I know when I first started doing this stitch, it did kind of feel like the stitch from hell. It doesn't now. In fact, I love this stitch and I find it quite easy, and you will too. Just bear with it. So I'm going to go in here and just do a couple of single crochets at the end here, because I just want to make sure that end is nice and secure. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that, and then we're going to go ahead and turn that work. Now, as you can see on the back side, we have, if I can get it pulled apart, we have these little gaps where we skipped a stitch. Now I'm using a smaller hook than you may be using, so your gaps may be more noticeable and bigger, but as you can see, they are all, you can see where they're at quite clearly. So when you turn it over, there's one of two things you can do. You can continue to repeat that, which I will show you in a minute, or if you decide, you get 2 different looks from this. Okay, there'll be 2 different ways that this will look. So I'm just going to chain up 1 and just go into this stitch and do a single crochet, and then of course normally if you repeat, you go into you'd skip this one here and go into the gap. We'll do that in a minute, but I am going to show you real quick. If you go into the top of this and just stitch every one of those. So we'll do that all the way down. I'm going to be pulling this out in a minute and coming back at it from a different approach. We're going to just single crochet into this for the moment, just to give you a look at the different ways it can look. You can also do 2 single crochet into these gap spaces if you want. I think this is prettier, so it's up to you, but I just go into the gap when I'm finishing off the stitch, and that's how you would do it if you finished it off, and then I just go in over the top of that. All right, so I'm going to continue. We're going to come at this from different approaches here and approach it different ways. Now when I turn this, if you'll look, that's what that would look like if you just single crochet all the way across it and stop. You can also, let me pull it back just part of the way, as I have already told you. Look at that. You can also instead single crochet twice into each of the gaps. I don't like that as well, but I will at least let you see, because you may find it quite nice. We're all different. We like different things. And so I'm just doing into the gaps and not touching the other stitches, the ones that we skipped. I mean, the ones that we worked into. I'm just going into the gaps, the ones we skipped. And so as you can see, we have done that. It's not a lot different, but I think it's not as tidy. Okay, I just don't think it looks as tidy. I think this looks much neater. So it's just a matter of personal opinion. You may look at it and think, I don't see any difference, but it's from here to here that I've put 2 stitches into each of the gaps. So you may like that a lot better, and it just depends on the look that you want from it. Okay, so it's quite nice either way. Both of them look nice. Okay, so you can do it how you want. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pull back here, pull this out, and I'm going to show you what happens when you build those. Okay, so we are going to single crochet into that first stitch and make sure that I've chained up. Yeah, I had chained up, but we're going to do it again now. Okay, we're going to single crochet into that first stitch, and then now if we're repeating the woven stitch again, you would wrap and go into the gap this time. Okay, so where you start, you would need to be able to skip. This would be your skip stitch. That's the woven stitch from the previous row. So you would need to be able to skip that and go into the gap. All right, so we're going to skip it and go into the gap, and we're going to slip stitch through the first loop and then yarn over and pull through 2. We're going to go right back into that same gap again. Okay, slip stitch through both. Again, wrap, yarn over, whatever you prefer, insert into the gap, pull up a loop, slip stitch through the first, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, into the gap, pull up a loop, slip stitch through both loops. Okay, so we're just going to do that quickly all the way down. You can pause your video if you want to, if you're fighting with it, or if you feel like you need some practice, you can always just watch the video and then revisit it later. Okay. Okay. So I lost it, so let's start over on that one. Wrap, insert, pull up a loop, slip stitch through 1, yarn over, pull through both loops, and on the second time we slip stitch through both loops. Okay, slip stitch through 1, yarn over, pull through both loops, wrap again, insert, pull up a loop, slip stitch through both loops. You may need to do this over and over before you get it right. Like I said, you can rewind this video as much as you want. Again, yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, nope, slip stitch through 1, then yarn over, pull through 2, wrap, insert, pull up a loop, slip stitch through both loops. Okay, so now I'm just going to single crochet into these last 2. And I'm going to turn this over. And I'm going to pause the video and do it one more time. But as you can see, we've gone into loops and these are actually forming new gaps. So I'm going to pause the video and go one more round. And then I'm going to come back. You should be able then to see how it builds. Okay, so here we are again. And as you can see, it's starting to build up. And this is the type of look that you get from that, where you can see. Now, if you're working in the round, you actually get these pronounced bars that are quite thick, that they just form kind of an angled look, really textured. It's just lovely. This, of course, is working by rows where you're turning it. So this woven stitch is quite versatile depending on how you're using it. It could be used in many different ways. I love the stitch and I use it a lot, especially in rounds. This, of course, is working by turning your rows. So I hope that I have helped you with that stitch, and you can like and subscribe and share this with your friends if you did enjoy it, and we'll see you on the next tutorial.